Hi, in this recording, I'm going to set up a AI-powered chatbot assistant using Emma for a car dealership. So for this video, we're going to use some products from a company called CarMax, which sells used vehicles. Okay, so we're going to do this with Shopify, just as an example, but there's a lot, you can do this with other e-commerce platforms as well, right? So I've created an example Shopify store here, right, called CarMax, and we have some of the products that they're selling. Okay, so some of these used cars. Perfect. So we're going to do this from scratch, right? So I have a new organization here on Emma called CarMax, and I'm going to create my first assistant. So I'll call this my customer assistants, okay? So I want this to be public because I want my customers to be able to access it, right? If it's private, then only me and any team member or any user that I invite will be able to access it, okay? So I want it to be public in this case. Perfect. So this is my assistant. The first thing that I'm going to do is update the icon. So this is for a previous video. Okay, so this was the logo. Hold on. All right, so here's our logo for CarMax. All right, and now for the color, we'll go with like a blue. I think that's their color. All right, perfect. So that's it for the appearance, right? So we've just updated the logo and the color. Okay. So now, I could start asking any questions like, like a general question maybe about a car. Not really sure what to ask now, but right. So I could ask, like a very general question to my assistant. So is a BMW a good car? Okay, so it's just going to give me like a general answer here because, I don't have any connected information, right? But so I want to upgrade this, and I want my assistant to be able to answer questions that my customers have, right, based on my data. So that's what we're going to do now. And the first thing I'm going to do is connect my Shopify products, okay? So I'm going to connect the Shopify integration first, okay? So right here, connect with Shopify. And so now I'm going to add this information here. All right, so I just connected my Shopify store, as you can see right here, called CarMax. And so what I'm going to do now is connect my products. Okay, so I don't want to connect orders or customers because it's a public assistant, right, that I want to use for, or that I want to use to support my customers with questions. If I would be creating a private assistant, like, for example, for my customer support team internally, or maybe like a sales team, then I could, connect my customers or my orders, okay? So I'm going to connect my products, right? So because this is a public assistant, I don't want to include information like the admin URL, the handle is not useful, created ad is not useful. Yeah, so, that seems pretty good. Okay, so like, let's sync this now. Perfect, so my data here is now syncing. Okay, so this can take a couple of seconds, right? And I'll test out my assistant first, right? So based on products, and then I'm going to add some additional contents, maybe related to financing here, okay, or related to, if I want to sell my car, for example. Okay, perfect. So let's refresh this to see if my products are synced. Okay, so this is synced. So let's start a new conversation here, and I want to ask it a question about a car. Okay, so all right, so I'm looking for a BMW. What do you have? All right, so you can see that there's several BMWs available for the store with a couple of links. Okay, so there's the 2012 BMW, we have a 2013 BMW SUV, 2019 BMW SUV, and then a 2017 BMW SUV X1 here, right? So let's see. Okay, so our 2019. Okay, so let's ask. So what is the price for the 2019 X3? Awesome. Can you list the specs for this car? Awesome. Okay, so we can see here the miles. So what if now I want to ask it something that might not be in the data, right? Like, for example, is 51,000 miles a lot for a used BMW? Excuse me. Okay, so you can see here the mileage is pretty average, and BMWs are known for their durability and longevity. And so this is very useful, right? If you want to help customers with questions that you might not have in your data, right? But just, like general questions on, like more specific information on a car or on any of your products, really, right? So that's awesome. Now, if I knew that this was a frequently asked question, what I could do is that I could connect my custom content, right? So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to add some custom contents, okay? Because let's say if I had like a very specific answer to this question here, or maybe about what is high mileage for a used car in general. And if I had, like a bunch of answers for this, and maybe in those answers, like I wanted to specify that, like our cars are all verified, or they're all, they're like, they have like very high standards, for example, right? Then the assistant would answer, like give an answer based on that as well, okay? So, yeah, so, okay, so we have our custom content folder here, right? So I'll call this general questions. And now let's add a couple of files, right, with some information about my company. So let's maybe start with the financing, because like a lot of people would have questions about financing, right? So okay, so let's call this CarMax financing, and I'm now going to go and I'm going to copy and paste a bunch of questions from here. All right, so I copy and pasted some of the frequently asked questions that were asked here. Okay, I'll go ahead and save this file now. Okay, so these are some of the financing related questions. Let's add some more content here as well, right? And so here you can really add any content that you want. If you have a lot of information, right, what you could do as well is import it. Okay, so you could use like a spreadsheet to import a bunch of information. If you have like thousands of cars that are not maybe like on an e-commerce store like Shopify, what you can do is just like import a CSV file or an Excel file. Okay, so let's ask some frequent or let's add some frequently asked questions to our folder here as well. So I'll go ahead and create a new file. called frequently asked questions, and I'll copy and paste some of these in my file. All right, so I copy and paste some of the frequently asked questions that I found on this page here from the CarMax website, right? I didn't copy all of them, but I guess the most like obvious ones were added. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and save this as well, and I'm now gonna ask some questions to my assistants related to financing and some here about selling my car and how exactly does it work, right? So I'm gonna go to my assistants and I'm now gonna connect to this folder. Awesome. Okay, so let's start a new conversation here, and I'm gonna ask it about, hey, I would like to sell my car. So I want to sell my 2018 BMW car. How does it work? Awesome. So to sell this 2018 BMW car, you can either bring it to a CarMax store for an appraisal or get an online offer. Okay. Awesome. So, do you pick up the car? Okay. So now, can I negotiate the offer? Okay, so yeah, that's it's from like their frequently asked questions as well. So what else should I ask about? What else we have here? So about financing. Okay. So I would like to maybe let's put this in a new conversation just to keep it clean. So I would like to purchase a new car. What kind of financing do you offer? Awesome. So now let's ask one more question here that's not necessarily in this kind of information. So what are the usual terms for car loans? Now, I don't think it's anywhere in the information that I've provided it with, right? Okay, so there you go. This, it's not based on like anything that I've provided it with, but it will be able to like answer this in as a general question as well. Okay, so yeah, again, this is a very simple example, right? So we've only connected one Shopify store here, with only products and then some custom content, but you can provide way more content, right? Like spreadsheets. You can connect Shopify, Notion, your like a Webflow website if you have this, Google Sheets, Coda, right? For a company like this, it would also be very useful to connect it maybe like to an API with like all of your locations, or maybe add a file here with like all of your physical locations, right? So actually, let me try this because I think it's a very useful example. All right, so I wasn't able to find a complete list of all locations on the CarMax website. It makes you go to a specific store before you can find an address. Okay, so here, right? So I found, excuse me, a couple of states. Right, so I'm going to do this for two states, so Georgia and California, just for the sake of this recording. Okay, so CarMax locations. The formatting is not that great, but doesn't really matter that much. Okay. So there we go. This is horrible formatting. If you would have all of this information, for all of the CarMax locations in a CSV file, you could just import it like this and would actually create a separate file for all locations, which would even be better, right? Because you could provide like much more information for each location. But let's try this, okay? So even though the formatting here is horrible, yeah, okay, so this is very, very bad data, and I don't even know if it says the city. Does it say the city? So it doesn't even say the city here, right? But let's still try this, okay? So general questions are connected. And so let's try, so I'm located in Los Angeles. Which CarMax location is the closest? All right, and yeah, so that's correct, right? So that's our like this one right here. So that's the closest location, and this is awesome because I see like the data that I provided it with, right? It didn't even contain like the city. Okay, so you would obviously like want to like format this much better and provide the city, and maybe like more information, right, for each location. But it's able to tell that based on the address, this is actually like located in Los Angeles, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so like those were a few examples of how you could use this for a car dealership AI